Hey, welcome to our Resurrection Sunday episode of Road Less Traveled. And we're excited to be here tonight with Sean Spicer, a Dove Award winner, Kentucky Colonel. Got a new album coming out, some exciting stuff. Welcome back to the show, Sean. It's great to have you again.
Yeah, it's great to be here just to talk to you guys about anything and everything.
And nothing.
All right,
Oh, we always
fantastic.
find
Brian, how you
something
doing tonight,
interesting to
buddy?
talk about.
I am, like usual, a little tired, but I'm raring to go.
We certainly do.
We ready to start the showtime?
We are.
All right. So I usually do CDs, but for Easter, like
All right.
Sean, you said that you hadn't seen this
Good
yet, so
deal.
I highly recommend it. It's a very
Yeah,
good
yeah.
movie.
Tonight, folks, a little bit if we will.
I'd watch it tonight
Brian,
if it was on Netflix or HBO or something
Brian,
streaming.
what do you got going on there?
This
What
is a
I'm
movie
listening to?
called Risen, and
Risen?
it's about the guy that was charged. I mean, it's fictional, but based on true. Jesus died, and then he was charged to find the body because they thought that the disciples were gonna fake a resurrection. And so this movie I've watched probably 6 or 7 times. Really good, really good. Awesome perspective, whoever the original writer is. So that's what I have, and I've been listening to YouTube stuff. I don't know if like
So that guy was like a Roman.
Yeah, he's a Roman like
That guy was
centurion.
like a Roman soldier, right?
Yeah, he was in charge of a whole bunch of men. So whatever that's called. He tells people to come and they come, and he tells them to go and they go.
All right.
That's all I have for tonight.
All right, pretty cool. So yeah, that's a great video. I've seen it a couple times. Really enjoyed it myself. Showed it to my men's group a few years ago. It was a big hit, so I recommend it. I'm going to talk about some music, but I also want to talk about this for a minute. This Greg Laurie of Harvest Christian Fellowship. He was part of the Calvary Chapel movement and the Jesus Revolution. And this book just goes through the lives of some very well-known musicians and their faith journeys, and talks about how some of them, came to Christ and some of them just didn't. And it's a good warning to those that are seeking fame and fortune and the emptiness of it without the Lord. And some maybe almost halfway through it, and so far it's a really good read, so I highly recommend it. Listening to Bride this week.
Right.
My favorite of all of their albums, Kinetic Faith. It's the first one I ever listened to back in the day. Really good stuff. And The Brave's first album is always a winner. They're little bit different sound now, but boy, they still rock. And highly recommend this. This is a good heavy rocker. Sean, what are you listening to, man?
Well, over the last year, it's been a lot of stuff that's grabbed my attention. Sometimes I've rediscovered stuff. This was one of the bands, Midnight Oil from the 80s. I didn't remember them. They were
Oh yeah, I remember that.
yeah, from Australia. Vocally, Sade. You've heard of her.
Sure.
I've really gotten heavily as a musician back into the blues for some reason, and I started rediscovering it and almost relearning it. So, Sun Seals, and this has really sort
Nice.
of elevated my guitar playing. Let me see, I got one or two more. Interesting pop band here, the Umbrellas. They sound like a cross between the Pixies and REM. And
Cool.
some of the other interesting stuff that gets my attention is that dream pop electronic music. I don't know why I've gotten into this, but Stereo Lab. So this is stuff that kind of captivates my attention as a guitar player, a composer, and just a listener. So that's interesting. That's kind of a little bit all over the map. But
Yeah, I was gonna say that, from the blues, which I love blues. I got a pretty good sizable blues collection that I'm building up. Probably my second favorite genre next to metal. And I love blues based rock and other and metal. So you got the blues, and then you got what's that electronic? pop. Is that what that
Yeah,
was? That
dream
last
pop
album?
electronic stuff. I saw Cut Copy back in October. A friend invited me to their concert, and it's just really interesting. This electronic dream sort of pop stuff, just interesting. I don't know why it's captivated my attention, but it has. So just one of those things, And of
Yeah.
course, the
And is it
blues.
got vocals or is it?
Yeah, it's got vocals. It's got vocals. But as for the blues, I've been a musician for decades, and okay, the blues. You think of certain bands, but the blues has many layers and genres. So there's Delta blues. There's the Memphis blues, like we're BB King. There's Texas blues. You think of Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Mhm.
Chicago blues, Buddy Guy. There's the English blues, like
Mhm.
Eric Clapton and Cream.
Sure.
And there's just so many genres of it, and I've just kind of thought, I've been getting deeper into some of those layers of blues and sort of listening to it. And Robin Trower was something I've been listening to. The way is his expression and the use of the wah pedal, and his blues style is close to what I would do live. I've been subbing. I played with a blues band recently in the Pittsburgh area, and they used me for a gig, and it's just really interesting. It's just I don't know. It's simplistic, but it's complicated at the same time. So
Well, didn't rock and roll
Yeah.
all
And
stem from the blues? Because
yeah,
there's a
what
lot of
happened is the English stole it from the Americans, from us when we had the Delta blues and all that, and they took it and they redid it. Like that's when Led Zeppelin came out and John Mayall and the Blues
Mhm.
Breakers and all those British bands and British Invasion. They took it and went to another place with it.
I'm glad.
Yeah, I'm glad too.
Yeah, me too.
But
Because
I
you
listened to
listen to
growing up
Robert
guitar players
Johnson.
that were very blues based, like David Gilmour from Pink Floyd was one.
Mhm.
Early Rush stuff, I guess, things like that that had a blues base to it. You think you've got the market on it, but then there's just so many other places you can go with it. And I'm going to see Kenny Wayne Shepherd on the 19th of this month. A good friend of mine in Nashville. He plays sax for Kenny Wayne Shepherd. He's just awesome.
Oh, cool.
Charlie DePuma. He's got me some comp tickets, so I'm gonna check him out. He's just something else. Kenny Wayne Shepherd.
Yeah, I like him a lot. He started out. He was really young when he started, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Like a teenager, I think he was playing out already.
So,
Yeah, he's incredible. So I'll
Sean, do you
certainly be.
listen to Ronnie James Dio at all?
No, I never listened to him. I never really got as a kid deep into the hard metal or hard rock.
Okay.
I mean, mine was I was more into progressive stuff, listening to Yes and Rush
Oh, yeah.
and Genesis, more prog rock stuff.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then I sort of was turned on to the Police and bands like Talking Heads and stuff like that.
So you
Even
loved
though I wore a
MTV.
jean jacket in high school, I guess that was so I wouldn't get beat up or something.
Sean's coming home from the bus and turning on the TV for MTV, right?
Yeah.
That's what I did.
I think we all did, man. That was the thing back
I
then.
want my MTV. But now
Yeah,
it's
So
there were two types of people in high school. They're the rockers and the preppies, and they didn't like each other. So I just, even though I listened to like Duran Duran or Talking Heads or the Police or that new wave stuff, I kind of hid it wearing a jean jacket and my hair was past my collar, so I got away with it. So
well, even though I was in the harder rock, I still was listening to some of the outlaw country at the time, and I did like some of the new wave stuff. And I'm ashamed to admit, I kind of dug some of the Pet Shop Boy stuff and stuff like that. So it was a weird thing for me to. It was kind of like a guilty pleasure thing to listen to back in the day.
yeah, and I
you
think
probably listen to
that's
Flock of Seagulls.
No, I didn't really get into them.
no, but I mean, I remember back then. That's probably why I've gotten into Stereo Lab and Cut Copy and some of these bands because I remember some of those really cool melodies and those keyboard sounds when the '80s, like Depeche Mode, was big. I had a
Yeah.
brother that was immersed into that stuff, like Depeche Mode and The Cure and bands like that, and I go, wow, that's to me, just good music is good music.
Yep.
Yeah, and you had to get college radio to hear like Depeche Mode and the Smiths and that style of music. You wouldn't hear
Yes.
that on the regular mainstream radio stations.
No, no, you wouldn't.
So blending the blues sound that obviously you already said influences you, and that electronic stereo pop kind of music. Do you find that influencing some of your original stuff? The blend of that is how does that work? Does that how does that define your
Um,
sound?
yes and no. There's two sides to me. There's someone who plays out live quite a bit. Then there's the guy who composes. And I've had talks with a guy that we wanted to do something, a project very interesting. You've had Chaz Bond on your show,
Yes.
and him and I have talked about get this putting out an acoustic record, which is interesting. I mean, just do acoustic pieces, and he sings. Now he's already done that really cool stuff, that biogenesis, which is untouchable. I mean, you just can't take that stuff to another level. So I've written a lot of acoustic stuff. I sent it to him. So we've had talks, and we're trying to make our schedules align and get into a studio. I've sent him some stuff, and just maybe putting out like an acoustic album, him singing, because he's got a killer voice, and he's
Yep.
just
Oh, he
he
does
can
for
write
sure. In
melodies. The
fact,
guy does it all.
Get the comment.
well, his fiance Terry mentioned a comment, and my stuff's glitching tonight for some reason, but it'll come up. Um, it was there and it's gone. But she suggested that you guys do a cover of "Beds Are Burning" from you held up the album
Biogenesis.
a minute ago,
I'd be
and
open to
I
that. Jazz
nope
Bond is a guy that
Oh,
his
the first
voice
album.
reminds me a lot. If you remember of Jeff Tate from Queensryche, I always thought that guy had the best voice in the that kind of hard rock scene, and he's got that element to that, and he's a good songwriter, and he's a quality person too. So that's very appealing to work with someone like that. We just want to see if we can make our schedules work, as we both have jobs, and I'm moving slightly out of the city into a new place. But I would like for this to come. I've sent him some really cool acoustic ideas, and he liked them. And everyone thinks, well, he should just do like a hard rock record, but he's already proven himself with that, with the biogenesis stuff, which is just, how do you top that? You can't. So maybe we've talked,
Right,
maybe he
sure.
wants to
I,
branch out and do something else.
I would love to see that because even talk about iconic. You talked about Led Zeppelin a minute ago. Robert Plant had that distinct metal voice throughout Led Zeppelin and in his solo projects, and even his work with the Honey Drippers, completely different, but still knocks it out of the park. And I would love to see Chaz do something like that, where he
Well,
goes off
exactly.
genre a little bit, but still,
Well, it was like Robert Plant when he did that record with Alison Krauss. It won a Grammy, and I don't think Led Zeppelin ever won a Grammy.
yes,
And during that time, that Raising Sand won all these Grammys, he was offered an outrageous amount of money to reunite with Led Zeppelin tour, and he said no. So when I think the
he
most
tore the
amazing
contract
record,
up.
his solo stuff is good, and the Honey Drippers, but Raising Sand by Alison Krauss is an incredible record.
Oh, it
You
really
think that
is.
guy
And that
just
new
killing
band
it,
he's
Led
got
Zeppelin,
saving,
then he's doing this bluegrass stuff.
and he's in that Saving Grace album. Have you heard that one now? The new one he
No,
just did.
no.
They're doing gospel music.
Wow.
Oh, you told me about
There's a
that.
couple of yeah, the band's called the Saving Grace, and then there's a couple of flat out gospel songs on the album, and it's just phenomenal. It's a really really good solid album from beginning to end.
Oh yeah, you shared that one once on one of our shows.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because it was like off genre for sure, but I think that's kind of where he's at right now. And he's always had elements. He's always had biblical elements in his lyrics, even going back into some of the songs he wrote for Led Zeppelin. And I don't know that he has a real profession of faith in Christ at this point, but it's definitely it sounds like he's leading to it. It's some method,
Hey, do you
some
guys
manner.
ever just randomly pray for famous people? I do.
Yeah, I do.
It's so fun. So we should do Robert Plant this week. We should just commit to pray for Robert Plant.
We
Yeah,
could do that.
Robert Plant's cool. When I lived in Nashville, there was this trend when I lived in Nashville that a lot of celebrities would own residencies in Nashville, like Johnny Depp, you name it. And Robert Plant did have a residency there. And there's a part of Nashville that's got a blues section, Printer's Alley, and then in the West End they had this this pub called Soulshine, which was blues, and he used to go there. So I'd always try and go there and hope I'd catch him there. And they said, "Oh, you just missed him. He was here 2 nights ago." So
Oh,
yeah, he's really cool, Robert Plant. I think he's just yeah, he's a legend, but he's also diverse too. It's neat when artists can branch out. Like for instance, when we think of Elvis Presley, here's something very interesting. Elvis Presley won 6 Grammys, or I don't know how many Grammys, but all his Grammys were in gospel. Isn't that something? He was the king of rock and
Right.
roll, but the only Grammys
Hmm.
he won were in gospel. Yeah,
Yeah, and I was just reading about that. Of I think one of his last recorded albums was a gospel album,
yeah,
and
go figure.
so yeah.
Led
So
Zeppelin never got a
has
Grammy.
met.
Led Zeppelin never won a
No, I
Grammy.
don't think they ever did. I
No,
don't
I
think
don't think
anybody
they
in that
did.
genre were getting Grammys back in that time.
Oh, okay, they had
Yeah,
to have won other
I
stuff because
think
man,
Kiss didn't
Oh
ever
yeah,
get
they probably won all
anything
kinds of
until they
other
did
stuff, but
Beth. It was
I
so off
think I'd have
genre.
to look it up that
It
if
was
Led Zeppelin ever won a I don't think they did, which is shocking, you
what's
know.
that? We'll get our stat checkers on that. Just kidding.
yeah, I don't believe they have. Yeah, and
Maybe someone can look it up and comment, but
like like Paul and I have a team of statisticians working for our
yeah,
show.
if anybody, yeah, yeah, anybody on our team wants to look that up and send us a comment, we'll throw it up on the screen.
Get on that, Ray Para.
But um, Terry's on is and she's talking about. I'm trying to get her comment up here. For some reason, my comments are not. There it is. Terry said, "I can't wait to see what you and Chaz produce together. You're both very talented." And that to me is a really great collab. And I would love to see what comes out of that.
yeah, I did too. I had a bunch of acoustic ideas. They sent them and he liked them. It's just a matter of somehow getting in some kind of studio and you make your work schedules and your life schedules align, and that's I think in the right time, but it would be really cool because I thought, well, he does a lot of the hard rock stuff and that bio, but I just couldn't compete with that. It's so good that and I've written a lot of like little acoustic pieces and things like that, and I thought, wouldn't that be cool? But yeah,
Yeah, I
he's
would
he's
love to see
very
a
very
collab like that.
diverse.
So you've got, yeah, it would be really cool, and I like the idea because I like the idea of genre mixing too, because like Leighton and Martin did the Roxology, where they took classic hymns, traditional hymns, and put a rock sound to them, and that's not something you'd expect to hear. So I think a collab of you with acoustic bluesier, um, that would be really cool to hear. Oh, we do have a report on the Led Zeppelin Grammy
Ah,
mystery. Led Zeppelin has won Grammy awards, but primarily later in their careers after disbanding. Okay, so they
ah.
didn't get recognized till after they were no longer playing together.
What's
Yeah,
your
That
I don't,
makes
source?
sense
I don't know if that
because I
officially
don't think they were
counts.
handing out.
It counts, but it doesn't count.
Probably one of those honorary
They
things.
work together.
Yeah, I don't think they were handing out Grammys to rock bands in 1972.
Right?
So, so you got something coming out, right, Sean?
Yeah, a couple of things. I've been with Tom Kurlander and Pale Blue Sound. His music is like Tom Petty meets Springsteen meets the Replacements, and we've been together since 2012, and we do a handful of shows per year, but we make those shows count. And he discovered a show that we did in New York City at the Bitter End. That was a well-known club that Bob Dylan played, and this was 2012. And he found it on a CD while he was cleaning up or house cleaning, and it was recorded off the board, and it was a really good performance, and it featured our late bass player who passed away a couple years later. So we've had it converted to a wave file, and it's going to be released on vinyl. It's Tom Kurlander and Pale Blue Sound at the Bitter End, September, I'm not sure of the date, 2012. So it's really interesting listening back. When I listened to back then, and the way I played, and I was playing a different guitar and in the moment, and it's interesting. So that's going to be released hopefully early summer. It's they're doing the artwork now, and it's been taken to the engineer at Hellbender. That's where they do vinyl pressing here in Pittsburgh. So that should be interesting. And I've been doing some like blues stuff. There's a band that's wanted me to sub and do some blues things with them, and I've done that. So yeah, it's I'm on track. Every year I try and do something different, and I've switched up my playing. I ended up buying a Stratocaster, which I was hadn't played those in years, and that's kind of changed my playing a little bit. So just those little tweaks and things that cause you to sort of evolve or change, which is it's always good. It's always good to find room for improvement or growth, and I try and do that.
Did you work on that Rush tribute CD that you
No,
talked
that
about?
never came to pass. I guess it was again just scheduling. There was a time we were supposed to go in and then it got canceled and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, that never came to pass, unfortunately.
So
Did you see
that
the
And that
video?
would
project
have been cool because I think Terry Brown, the guy who produced 10 Rush records, was involved in that.
Ah,
oh wow. Wow.
I thought they
So
did a
the
good job
project
with
just
that awards thing with that. Did you guys see that video?
No.
They had Annika playing drums for the first time live.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Yes, I did. Yeah, I saw that. That was very interesting. It's hard to growing up in Toronto and Rush was like their Beatles. It's hard to see
Yep.
look at Rush and not see Neil Peart, but she did a good job. I mean, I
Well,
can
the
only
song is
imagine the
from when
pressure.
they had their first drummer, is what they said. So she didn't have to live up to Neil as much because it was from their first album with the first
That's
drummer.
why they probably did it. That's what
Yep.
everybody says. They, you know.
I think that they're being really smart about this because you know what they're also doing, and no one's even talking about it. Is they're drawing in the female crowd because there's a standing joke that Rush fans are always guys, and so
Yeah,
now
that's true. And you know what? You know, she's a female, but she can play with the best of them. She
oh my
plays
word,
with Jeff
she's
Beck,
good.
Annika Niles. So she's, you know, she's got the credentials. She wouldn't be
Oh
there
yeah,
if she didn't.
no, nope. What I've seen, she's really good.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, to me, it's kind of like with Eddie Van Halen. Now the young kids are going, well, Eddie wasn't that great. So and so's doing that. I'm doing it. Yeah, but you're doing it because Eddie did it. And so I think a lot of drummers are doing that with Neil Peart too. There's that influence. So who influences you the most, like on your guitar? Like who's your number one guy that you kind of patting yourself off or really encouraged you?
I think, you know, I would have said a while ago that it would have been Alex Lifeson from Rush because when we were kids, everything was Rush. Living in Toronto, it was in a Rush tribute. But for me, it would be Andy Summers from The Police because he's kind of he's diverse. He can do jazz. He did punk. He can do almost anything. He's very diverse. I've got all his solo records, so he's more than just the guy in The Police. And his solo records are great. And I saw him a year and a half ago, yeah, in Ohio at Kent University, and he had this talk, and he would play, and then he would tell stories about the Police. And of course, I saw him with the Police in 2008 when they got back together for that reunion. But he would be I think the way I play, my number one influence. I like his diversity, how he can be the guy in the Police, but then he's another guy doing something with Robert Fripp, or he's doing some Latin thing, and his solo records are really cool and ethereal. Like one record I've loved, Mysterious Barricades. He would have to I would have to say he's my number one influence, who I play like, or at least I try to play like, or who I connect with. So, and I think the other one is David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. The first solo I ever learned was Mother off the Wall, and
oh
just the
wow.
way he expresses himself, it's just amazing.
Cool.
Well, I remember when Delicate Sound of Thunder came out. Do you remember that album, the live album when they were touring
Yes.
in '87? So I had gone to see them. I'd gone to see the show in '87 in the Orange Bowl down in South Florida, and then I picked up the double cassette. It was a double cassette at the time, and I remember I was at my in-laws' house listening to it, and my wife's grandmother, who loves jazz, she heard the music coming out of the cassette, and she goes, "Are you listening to jazz?" Because there was kind of a more of a jazzy tone to it once Roger Waters left, and I was like, "Well, no, it's Pink Floyd. They're a rock band." And she was bringing that over here, and I brought my little boombox over, and she sat and she listened to it, and she loved it. because to her, she felt it was more of a jazzy type of a song, and she had grown up, I guess, loving jazz. So that was a pretty neat, eye-opening experience for me, because I never considered the influence of jazz with Pink Floyd like that.
You know that she's 100% correct on that. The keyboard player Richard Wright was heavily into jazz, and if you listen to Great Gig in the Sky, some of the chords, he said
Mm-hmm.
some of those chords were influenced by Miles Davis. He was like a jazz pianist, but he
Huh.
was very heavily oppressed. I was told, or I read, by Roger Waters. I mean, he was even fired during the Wall sessions and hired back as just a, a touring musician. So
Huh.
Richard, I think that's because David or Roger Waters wasn't there to oppress him. And his, if you listen to some of the stuff on animals, like the beginning, I think it's sheep, that kind of thing he does with the roads. It's very like jazzy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's she's 100% correct on that.
How has
Yeah.
Lawrence Welk influenced you? I'm just kidding.
What's that?
How has Lawrence Welk influenced your music?
Lawrence Welk?
Yeah, the bubbles.
Yeah, the bubbles. But I was like, it's interesting. When I was a kid, my grandmother used to watch that, and the conductors. I still remember like
Yep.
the really geeky paisley suits. Remember how they always used to have matching suits? They would be like, like orange or light blue or something, like totally like tacky.
Release
They
the
look like
bubbles.
curtains you got from Walmart or something. Yeah.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, I knew we'd stayed too long at Grandma's house on Sunday when it was time for Lawrence Welk.
Yeah, I was forced to
Can we
watch
go home
that.
now?
Sorry I
Who
did
made
that to
that
you guys.
comment? That's pretty funny.
What's that?
Who made that comment about Lawrence Welk? That's pretty funny.
Me.
Oh,
That
okay.
was Bryan. And Terry Lynn says, I've listened to Tom Kurlander, Unique Sound. Sean, you did awesome with them. Looking forward to hearing the new work. So what's on the forefront? What are you working on now?
Like I say, just writing acoustically. I teach kids at a music school, School of Rock, and I really like that. I really like seeing these kids when a School of Rock. That's like a franchise that you've probably heard of them. They've got about 300 teaching schools across the country.
Yeah.
So I'm a sub there. I was full time in Cleveland, but I like teaching kids. I like some kid, he's 13 and he's wanting to learn some song. Like I want to learn, I don't know, some Pink Floyd song or Led Zeppelin, and I go, well, what got you into this? And they'd always say the same thing. Oh, my parents, which is so cool.
Yep.
Parents are turning their kids on to good music. Well, that's good. You're not listening to Bad Bunny or something like that. You're listening to cool music. So that's really cool.
Yep. I'm still laughing about that.
One of my kids went to School of Rock, and it was really good for him.
That's real? I thought it was just a movie.
It is, and then they turned it into a franchise.
Huh.
They got two schools in the Pittsburgh area.
Wait, it happened after the movie? The movie was first?
Yeah, the movie was first, and then they launched this music school, and it's a little bit more different than other music schools because we teach kids how to perform. It's not just learning music and theory. They take it a step further. So these kids we put them together and they do shows. They'll learn 4 or 5 songs and go out and go into a pub or a bar and actually play them. And it's so cool to see some kid who's very shy and has no confidence. The next thing you know, like 6 months later, he's like ripping on stage. I think that's just really cool. And you see their confidence grow. Maybe not they're the best student or the best athlete. And all of a sudden when they, they find an instrument and they find that passion, it's just a really good thing to see, and you see them just mature, and it keeps kids out of trouble.
Yep.
When I was a kid, I mean, learning music and playing music kept me out of doing some of the bad stuff that kids were doing at the time. So it's a very healthy thing. Music's
awesome. Hey, do you teach 60-year-old guitar players that are already in a band and with a record company? That's me.
Only if they like Lawrence Welk.
Yeah, I'm in, man. I am in.
It's mostly teenagers and stuff, and it is very rewarding for me. You know, I mean, I was helping. I mean, one girl, she was playing bass and she was in a Led Zeppelin show, and I watched her play like some of those bass lines, like rambling on, and she played it note for note. And I said, "How long have you been playing?" And she said, "Oh, like 6 months." And I just shook my head.
What?
Like those are the things you see. You know, kids, they're you know they're putting all this time in practicing, and you see, it's just a really good thing. I think about music in my life, and it's given me a lot of good things, friendships and traveling to different places and a lot of cool things. You know, it's been a very positive experience. I mean, and everyone thinks you don't have to make it to some huge level of stardom, but even just playing locally or messing around with your friends, or if it's a hobby, coming home after work and just jamming on a few tunes, it's a very healthy thing,
Isn't it
because
cool
there's a
that in
lot
the
of worse
days,
things people could be doing, you know.
yep, the days of
Absolutely.
creation, wasn't it cool that God said, I think I'll sprinkle some music in there?
Yeah.
I am so thankful. We
Yeah,
got
and
signal.
you know, you're talking about this kid like 6 months playing and knocking the bass lines for some difficult bass lines out of the park, and 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 Brian, you mentioned about the younger people talking about Van Halen, yeah, um, they don't realize the groundbreaking things that were done that we got to grow up and experience.
Yep.
I'll try to show my kids stuff that was groundbreaking at the time, but
Oh, he
some
froze. There he goes.
8-year-old, 12-year-old kids on YouTube playing it like a master, and
Yeah,
and
like
the new
6 years
stuff
old.
that's on that is sounds better, obviously.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
teach
but
I teach a
they don't
little bit of
understand that
bass.
this was groundbreaking stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, it was at the School of Rock. I also teach some bass and sort of basic bass. I'm not a, I'm a, I mess around at bass. I know it, and I played bass like in church and on worship teams, and I like it. But when I tell kids when they're into bass, they say, you know, okay, I want to learn Metallica, and I go, that's good, but listen to Paul McCartney. His bass lines are simple, but they frame the song. If you listen to 8 days a week, the walking bass lines that he does, or Lady Madonna, his stuff with Wings, it's just musically brilliant. And I always tell kids, if you're going into bass, please learn Paul McCartney and then take it from there. If you want to get into something else, that's fine. And it seems to work, you know.
Whatever
Some kid
works.
wants to learn, like, you know, Seek and Destroy by Metallica, and then, you know, I turn it, and then next thing you know, he's learning like Lady Madonna. So
But that's the foundational stuff, and
Yep.
I
rudimentary.
think a lot of people want to jump in and do the fancy things. Yeah, yeah, and it's the same thing biblically. We got to start off with the basics, and then we learn line upon line, precept upon precept, and we grow. And you might hear a preacher doing some really in-depth study and teaching, but he didn't just start there.
No.
He started out very basic and learning the rudimentary things, like you said, to build on.
Yep.
So that is very wise, very important for these kids to learn the foundational stuff.
If I would have listened to my grandpa when he wanted to teach me Jesus loves me and all
So
these lame songs on guitar, I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to do Hell's Bells and stuff like that. So I didn't do it.
you want to
Ah,
shred. Yeah.
he would have taught me all the basics. And I didn't start playing guitar till I was 35. So at least I'm doing it.
No, there's no age where you can, you know, start. It's just if it grabs your interest, and
Yep.
you know, somebody who, you know, and there's people like if they just learn like you know the open position chords, and then they can sit there and write great songs. I mean, they're worth their weight in gold.
Yep.
You
You
know, I
can do
mean,
so much with three or
songwriters
four
are, you know,
chords.
there's they're worth their weight in gold.
Yep. We get a little excited about music, don't we, guys?
So as a composer, are you
Uh-oh.
What
so
I missed
Sean,
that
as
you
a
cut out for a
composer,
second.
you're I'm sorry, as a composer, you're writing music, obviously. Are you writing lyrics as well, or are you
I've
writing
never
stuff
written
and then
lyrics. I
hoping
could
somebody
never
like
really
Chaz comes
write
along and puts
lyrics.
lyrics to it?
I seem to be able to put chord progressions together and melodies, and then I'll give them to someone who can um, do that. So, yeah, I have never been able to write lyrics, but it's just been like chords with me. I can write good chord progressions and changes, and then I give it to someone else who can. So, yeah, that's kind of limiting for me, but it is what it is. You just got to get that connection, that collaboration, and I've done it with many different people over the years, and uh, I look forward to do something with Chaz Bond. I've sent him a lot of. I went through my phone and I found a lot of good like ideas. I put down. He liked them, so it should be very intriguing, interesting.
Cool.
And then I've evolved a little bit. I started playing getting into a little bit of percussion. I've been playing like the glockenspiel. You know that little thing like a xylophone. I've
Talk
played
about that
that
a
on
little
different.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So,
interesting. I
so what are you
always
doing
have
with
liked
that? Are
it.
you
I've played that in a couple studio things. I bought one when I lived in Cleveland, and then when I was in the studio with Tom Kurlander a couple years ago, we he was he had, we were recording a couple songs, and I played the glockenspiel and I played it live a couple times, just in acoustic settings. Sometimes we do his show acoustically, so it's an interesting thing. I like percussion, and sometimes when we haven't been able to get the full band together because of scheduling, we just do it acoustically. And I've always believed if a song is a good song, you should just be able to play it like acoustically.
I love acoustic. We're going to do a double disc, and one of them is going to be in a more acoustic driven music. So it's going
Yeah,
to
that all started, I think, when back in the '90s, when was it either Eric Clapton or Nirvana went unplugged,
be
and then
okay.
everybody started doing that unplugged thing, which was pretty intriguing to me. It was interesting.
Yep. Something different, pushing the envelope into a different area.
Yeah.
The acoustic guitar is beautiful.
Yeah, you can't hide anything with it. And I had an album here I didn't pull out, but one of the guys guitar players that's really intrigued me the last year, and I've been listening to him, buying his records, was John McLaughlin. I mean, this guy could blaze on acoustic like no one's business. He was just a jazz kind of fusion guy, and he was from England. And another one I've kind of rediscovered. So there's just been like a lot of different sort of music hitting me.
and you mentioned getting a Strat, changing your style of music or your playing methods and stuff. Talk about this the stuff that Bryan usually asks about, the technical guitar stuff. But talk about how you play different. How the different instruments influence your style or your methodology.
Um, it, I think it was because when I was getting into the blues and stuff, and I noticed a lot of those players like Robin Trower and Buddy Guy and stuff, they use Strats, and then a lot of other guys that I like too were using Strats. And then I was in one of the music stores here in Pittsburgh, and I saw one I liked, and I kept playing it, and I went back and play it, and then it went on sale, and I thought, okay, I better buy this before someone else does. And I had a connection with the instrument, and that hasn't happened too many times. I get an instrument and there's a connection with it. It feels good, it plays good, and it just took off from there. I play that guitar more than anything. And before that, I've had a Gibson ES, I think it's a 135. It's kind of like a jazzy sort of guitar, like the one that Ted Nugent kind of uses, like it's a
Mm.
hollow body. I've been using that forever in sessions and live, and it's got a certain sound, and you can do jazz on it. But when I do the Strat, it just it feels different. You sort of play different. I don't know. Um, yeah, that's sort of evolved my playing the last 3, 4, 5 months, I guess.
Cool.
Okay, and you mentioned being from Toronto, growing up in Toronto, and um, the music scene there. We got some really great Christian bands that came out of Toronto. We got Angelica. We've got Daniel Band. I'm not necessarily, but Canada came out of Canada. And so, do you find that there's a different influence from the Canadian music scene than here in the States?
Yeah, it is different. When you hear Canadian bands, they do have their own sort of thing, their Canadian sound. I was immersed in Canadian bands. Like, I mean, besides, these records here, I started listening to a Canadian band called Blue Rodeo. And then there was a cool singer, Katie Lang. And
Mm.
I really was into Canadian bands as younger. They had a certain sound to them. And
Triumph.
but yeah, there's a difference. I think. Just like the
And
accent, it's different, you know?
yeah, a little bit. And so, what when you play now, or maybe in your earlier years, did you find yourself more influenced by that Canadian sound?
Um,
And
yeah, I was because I was heavily into Rush and stuff. And as I've been in the States and I've been a citizen for a while, I've completely immersed into, American culture and everything else, and a huge football fan and watching Monday Night Football and things like that. I've been, I mean, I growing up, I was huge into hockey. Now I'm not as much into hockey, so I'm more into football and things like that. So yeah, there's been a shift. Um, the countries are very similar yet different. It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain. Now, I've lived on both sides. I'm a citizen of both countries, but to me, I'm even though that's my birthright, I feel 100% American. That's how I feel.
I
sure.
have French Canadian roots from Windsor.
Windsor, yeah, right
When I go to
across
the
from
store,
Detroit.
when I go to the store, my uncle would always say that, and I'd look at him and go, "Okay, B," and he'd just look at me because the Canadians say A after everything.
I remember last year I was dating just a lovely woman, and she'd never been to Canada, and I took her to Canada to meet my parents, and she was just in awe because she didn't know what poutine was, and that's with fries that have a bunch of like bad stuff on top of it, like grease and cheese and everything else, and
Greece.
Oh,
she
good.
was just very intrigued by the culture. Like they don't have jugs of milk; milks are in bags, and
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
they,
and things are in metric system as opposed to
oh
what they
yeah.
are here.
And you have Kraft peanut butter there?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a thing here. So I have a friend there, and she was talking about how she smuggles Kraft peanut butter to her sister in New York because
We
they
have
can't get it.
Peter Pan, and Jif.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chief, yeah. They got restaurants we don't have here that I liked. I mean, they have a burger place called Harvey's, and their burgers are amazing. They would be like Five Guys,
Ooh,
And they
okay.
have
Mm.
a Chinese food buffet that's a franchise called the Mandarin, which is incredible. This buffet, if you like Chinese food, which I love, that's really cool. And Swiss Chalet and certain restaurants and things like that.
I
Um,
just had a burger about this thick for supper,
wow,
homemade. So that was good. Loaded up with pickles, ketchup, mustard, and I'm good to go. I
onions and
Nice.
tomatoes. Yeah,
don't like those. I like tomato soup and stewed tomatoes, but fresh tomatoes, the flavor changes when you cook it.
it does.
Yep. So I like stewed tomatoes because
So,
my grandpa makes what's that stuff? Goulash. I love goulash.
oh, goulash.
I'm
Yeah.
getting hungry. Thanks a
I've
lot. Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, so I was gonna say, got the benefit of the Canadian citizenship, the American citizenship. You've seen both cultures, and I think we take some things for granted here in our country, constitutionally, that you probably are more thankful for or more aware of than the average American that's just grown up with it and don't know a difference. And I think part of that's our freedom of religion and our freedom of speech.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
we see what's going on in the churches there right now.
Yeah, what I can elaborate on that Canada unfortunately is going down a very terrifying path. The Bible is been it's going under law as hate speech.
Yep.
So if you quote certain things, you could face criminal charges. They're taking away all their firearms. I mean, in Canada, 99% of crimes are committed with illegal guns, but they're going after
Yep.
guys like my dad, who's a hunter and done nothing, and he has till October to give up his firearms or could face jail time. It's terrifying.
Wow.
They're going down a very dark and draconian path, and it's for me, it's very disturbing.
It is disturbing.
So they're
Yeah,
taking
we don't
hunting guns.
understand in America how much freedom we have. And I look at my life and I think one of the smartest things I ever did was come to America. I mean, some of the trials and tribulations I have, I've been able to buy a home. I mean, to buy even a home in Canada is way out of reach. Yet I'm just buying my fourth home now. I mean, it's not difficult to own a home here in America. You go and you work and you have a job, whether it's at Target or whatever, you can, own a home. I mean, I'm living proof of that. I've had a house in Cleveland and in New York, and I got one here in the Pittsburgh area, and I'm selling this and getting one outside of the city that's got a little bit of a nicer property and a little bit more solitude. And I think, man, I couldn't do this in Canada. There's just no way. So
Hmm.
I'm very grateful to be here and to be a U.S. citizen. I don't think people realize what we really do have here. I mean, sure, we're not perfect, but um, I think that we have it better than a lot of other people.
We do. And even though
Yeah.
they keep bashing it,
Yeah, it's some of these people need to go and experience other places. And I think I've done missions and things all over the world. I've been to Asia and parts of Europe and things like that in Central America. And I just don't think people really appreciate what we have here. We have, and yet there's people that want to tear it down, and they don't understand. I mean, America is, when you think of all the companies and things that have been invented here, and I
oh
mean,
yeah,
Google came out of here, and iconic things like Coca-Cola and the Ford Motor Company and all
the
these
light
things. I
bulb,
think, what's that?
the light bulb.
Yeah, all of that stuff. Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of it too has been when I've traveled around the world. I think there's a hatred towards America, and a lot of it sometimes is just jealousy because we're good at a lot of things, and I think that's a lot of that is because we've had a lot of people integrate here from many different places. Like I mean, if you think about World War One and World War Two, when a lot of the Italian immigrants came and they brought a very high skill with them. I mean, they built the subway system in New York City.
Hmm.
And we've had a lot of good people and talented people come from many other places.
Yep,
And that's the legal immigration that we love and we want to encourage, and
yep.
we get talented people like yourself that get to come here and and enrich us. Um, but you know, we can't just have open borders, which is what they're trying to do for I think for the whole continent. I think there's a push right now for our continent to kind of become a union like the European Union. And I've been watching some stuff about that, and I don't know how good of an idea that is with the diversity that we do have between the three countries that share this continent.
Yeah, and being an immigrant myself, I can tell you that the process was very expensive and tedious, but it was worth it. I was heavily vetted. When I came here, I mean, I had to go back and get my vaccine records as a kid, all kinds of background checks. Then I had a work permit, a green card. Then I became a citizen, and they took 4 months to vet me to become a citizen, to do
Hmm.
background checks on the both things. And the way I look at it, it was a privilege to come here, not a
Yep.
right. Doesn't owe me anything. And I don't understand the ideology where, it's the opposite of that. I mean, I was heavily vetted and went through a process and to make sure that I was an upright citizen. When I became a citizen, I had a suitcase full of papers. They wanted to see every one of my tax records. Did you file taxes? Did you file them on time? They
Hmm.
all kinds of background checks, reference letters, everything. And the way I looked at it, it was a privilege to come here. It was a privilege to become a citizen. It wasn't a right. It didn't owe me anything.
I saw an interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's mostly liberal, but he agrees with you what you just said because in the video he talks about he's proud to be an American citizen and go through the right process because it's a privilege, like you said. And then, how did you feel when you finally got your certificate and they shook your hand and all that? Talk
It
about
was
that.
wonderful because I've always had a deep connection with America, and that I think that comes from my grandfather, who fought, I think, in the military in World War I or World War II. World War I. It wasn't World War I, but one of the wars. And he was from Jacksonville, Florida, and then he
Hmm.
came to Canada, Toronto, and met my grandmother, and that's how my family came. So I've always felt that the connection with the U.S. and I always thought there were so many things cool. I go, wow, look at that. The U.S. has the NFL and we got the CFL, and I just always, America was, Canada is very, it's big but it's small. There's so much here in America. I mean, I've lived in 5 different cities, I think 6 different cities, and it's different. In Canada, they've only really got 3 big cities, or else you're living in a very remote area. You got Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. Then there's a few smaller cities. Then there's out in the middle of nowhere, like in the middle of Saskatchewan. So, America, it's very different. I've traveled across the country, and the South is different from New York, and
Yep.
Arizona is different from Seattle. I mean, it is. There's a lot of kind of subgenres in America,
Yep.
but it all kind of works together.
Exactly.
And then you mentioned about you've done mission trips, and we had a couple weeks ago we had Scott Turney on, and he talked about doing missions in third world countries. So, what was your experience with that? With doing those trips overseas into other places that are far less privileged than we are here.
It was extremely rewarding. I mean, I did Alaska, Northern Ireland, and the Philippines. And in my lifetime, I would like to do one more somewhere. And uh, very rewarding. I mean, I just remember giving up my summer and one year and going to Northern Ireland and then
Mm.
doing an outreach to, believe it or not, Catholics and Protestants who were fighting back then. This was 1998. They were fighting amongst each other,
Oh, sure, yeah, I
and
remember
then
that.
building kind of a church in the Philippines, and then um, doing music and reaching out to kids in Alaska, Yupik Eskimos that had a high suicide rate. So all of it's been very rewarding to me. I encourage anyone to do it. Take the time and maybe take a summer off or part of your summer vacation, and just do that. It's very enriching too.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of short-term mission trips going on around. If you're younger, there's teen missions down in Florida. So yeah, I would encourage anybody to take advantage of something like that. Get out of your comfort zone. Go out and see
Yep.
how other people are living. Share the love of Christ, and just be a light to people that may not have an opportunity to hear the gospel.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, you played music and stuff when you went and did these trips, and what was the opportunities that opened doors for you with sharing and stuff?
It just gets, sometimes you really get to see the pain and suffering with people, and you get to connect with them because there's so much of it out there. And in my personal life, and even the last 3 years, I've went through an incredibly dark place. When I think of, like, for instance, Psalms 23, where it talks about, when you walk through the shadow of the valley of death, I'll fear your rod and your staff. I lived through that the last 3 years. I mean, I lived
Right.
through it. I went through a very, very horrific divorce, and which led to an alcohol addiction, which I overcame. It's been a year and a half, and when the pain was so great, unfortunately, I was socializing a lot, and that got a hold of me, and I've been free of that.
Yeah,
Um,
and I know you and I have talked about that a little bit offline, and the Lord's done some tremendous stuff with you. Not to get into anything really deeply personal, but um, what can you share with people right now that someone listening right now that's kind of in that place, stuck with the addiction, or they're hating life, hating themselves because they can't kick it. Um, the Lord delivered you, so share some hope for that person that's listening right now.
you know, y- I think you have to go all in.
Yep.
And you know, in our pain and suffering, sometimes we look to ways to numb it. And I remember with alcohol, what it does do, it numbs the pain. And the one good thing about, well, there's many good things, but being sober and clean for almost, let's say, a year and almost a year and a half or a year and 4 months, is it's done wonders physically, but also it's given me clarity, a complete clarity that I've never had. So I think people have to go all in and just really, they're going to have to just seek God and make that decision. No one can make it for you,
Yep.
and my reasoning was because I was going through a divorce and it was horrifically painful, and your life is being torn apart and there's a wrecking ball going through your life, and it numbed the pain. But there's other ways. You don't have to do that, and it's
Mhm.
got severe consequences. If you're into some sort of addiction, whether it's drugs or alcohol, eventually, sooner or later, it's going to take you out. And
Yep.
that's what I had to come to that conclusion. I'm drinking and I'm doing this and my health is declining. I'm not well. You're going to hit the wall.
Yep.
And when I got on a prayer line with someone, they had just prayed, and it was like something just being taken off me, and I haven't had a problem with it since. So I would tell people to go all in and cry out to God, and ask them to be delivered. And I'm 100% confident he will answer. I mean,
Yep.
I'm living proof of that. It's not a lifestyle you want. I know, with drugs and alcohol, drugs and alcohol are never really the problem. I think they just mask a problem.
Mhm.
There's always
Right.
something underneath of that that's causing it.
We're probably going to do a song I wrote called All or Nothing
Yeah,
in the.
you got to go all in. And I think
Yep.
that's like anything in life. If you want to succeed, whether it's in a job or a marriage or whatever, you need to go all in.
Yep.
You need to go all in. And that's, you know, uh, to me during that time of like my divorce and separation, I was just like, well, what's happening? My wife had a severe mental health breakdown and was influenced by some very evil and nefarious people. She wasn't in a good state of mind, and I did everything I could to save it, but in the end, it didn't happen. And then sometimes you ask those questions, well, God, why? But you have to
Mhm.
remember that people have free will.
Yes.
People have choices. They make these choices, and with those choices come consequences, whether they're
Yep.
good or bad.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Lots of collateral damage sometimes with people that lie.
And so here's something else I want to draw out real quick, because I know we're getting close to the end here. But how quickly after you felt that deliverance from the Lord were you because you came on our show, you were newly sober last time you were here.
Yeah, it only been 2.5 months or 2 months and 3 weeks, because I had stopped in December of 2024, just after I got here to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And
So and we didn't know that you had just gotten over that and just gotten through that. But already within 2.5 months, you're coming on shows, you're having opportunities to minister. Um, you weren't disqualified because
Exactly.
you were a believer. You kind of had that glitch that happened there, but it didn't
I made
disqualify
some
you.
some bad personal choices, and those bad personal choices were because of what I was going through, and the pain was so deep, and yes, I'm just thankful. I'm like I say, that Psalms 23, that when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, your rod and your staff, they comfort. Like, when you're going through that darkness,
Yeah,
and you come out the other side. I mean, that was me. That was me
yeah.
totally. I look back, I don't even know how I was here, because when I was drinking alcohol, I think I've shared that I'm diabetic, I'm type 2, and when
Hmm.
you drink when you're diabetic, that's lethal.
Yeah.
At one time I was doing a show in December with the band, and I was on stage and I felt so weak. I didn't know what was wrong. I felt like I was going to collapse. And then I had some blood work done, and it was Christmas, and I got a call, and they said, "Get to the hospital. Your blood sugar's so high, you should be in a coma."
Wow.
So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was one of those things of just deliverance, and I think I'm an example of God's compassion and mercy and probably patience. you know,
And restoration, because that's the point I wanted to draw out in our
Yep.
last minutes here, is that just because you had that bump in the road, or we can even say failure, whatever you want to call it, God restored you. You're being used of the Lord again. You weren't disqualified.
Nope.
And I want that the message to the person that's struggling right now. You're not God. You're not necessarily disqualified. Well, God can redeem all of that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's a scripture. I don't know exactly what passage, but it says, when a righteous man fall, he gets back up. And when you fall, get back up.
Yeah, yeah.
Get back up. It's when you're going to get knocked down in this life. Just don't stay down.
Exactly.
We're all
Yeah.
going to get knocked down, but get back up. And yeah, it was. I look back on these last 2.5 or 3 years, and I think about that. And now coming into a year and 4 months of sobriety, it's like what a difference. I mean, my body is completely healed. I mean, my body was just pummeled
And
from
your
it.
mind.
Mm.
Yeah. My mind was just kind of during that time was kind of in a haze. I didn't have clarity. It just like everything was kind of just like a haze. I could function, but it was just sort of everything was very hazy. And now you have this clarity that you never had before, And I think, wow. But my advice to people is when you get knocked down, get back up. I think the scripture says if a righteous man fall, he gets up 7 times or something. I need to
Yeah,
look that up.
righteous
Maybe
man
someone
falls
can Google
7
that for
times
me.
and gets
But
back up. Yeah.
But the
you
point
got to
is
get back up.
not
You know,
how
you,
many
you got
times
to
you
you
get
got
up.
to finish your race. You have
Yep.
to finish your race, even if you crawl over the finish line. At least you got over it.
Yep.
Yes. Absolutely. And that's what I love.
Finish
I love,
finish your race.
and your story is an inspiration, hopefully, to people that are struggling right now, and the people that may have overcome but feel disqualified and feel like, yeah, I can't be used of the Lord because I did these things.
Or they're
But you
being
can.
pushed back into it, and then they watch this show, and the Holy Spirit uses us. That's why we do it. So
Yeah.
hopefully,
Yeah, to help and encourage people. And even out of my very, very difficult time, and it's been a time of complete rebuilding my life. I was at a place before that all happened. I mean, life was good. I mean, I had money in the bank and everything was good, and just like a wrecking ball came out of nowhere and just went through it. And I'm standing there thinking, what just happened? And as I've come here to Pittsburgh and I've connected with very good people and this wonderful city, and even a church I'm going to now, which is very good. There's been a complete sort of restoration and rebuilding. I've sort of been moving forward and maybe baby steps, but there's still steps. I mean, you got to remember with someone, even as long as someone's moving in the right direction, even if it's baby steps, they're still moving. Even if it's
Yeah.
a small step in the right direction is a small step. And I connected with someone recently and I was encouraging them, and they were in a rehab. They were drinking. I don't know, it was drinking or drugs, and they were there. And I said, well, at least you're taking the right steps. You're in the right direction.
yep.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's different for each person too. But the main thing is keep your eyes on Christ.
Yeah, and I think that's really in this world. That's just completely as we see it around us, the rapid deterioration of what's going on in the world, and this war, that war, this happening, this, you name it. That's our only hope.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, where can people let's hear your music? Where can people connect with you on social media?
Like Instagram, Sean L. Spicer, or if they just Google my name, Sean Spicer Music, I mean, stuff I think will come up on, Spotify or SoundCloud, or there's stuff on YouTube of live performances and things like that.
Okay.
But yeah, that they can find all of that just Googling my name. Different things will come up, and there's stuff I even forgot about that I've done.
And you're on Facebook, right?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I like to talk with people and meet people, and I'm become more of an extrovert as opposed to when I was younger, an introvert, and meeting and talking with people and hearing their story and stuff like that. That's been very helpful, encouraging to me.
Well, thanks for sharing all
Great,
that.
great.
And I thought it was a good
Welcome.
conversation. So good show.
Yeah, I mean, we went over a little bit on time, but I think it was important stuff.
Yep.
And I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. And um, each time we've had John's been inspirational and just been
Yeah, thank
a
you. You
pleasure
guys too.
to
It's
hang out
good
with
to
you.
sort of catch up, and I hope even there's one person listening to that this may touch them or help them.
Yep. Exactly.
Absolutely. That's the goal, man. Just touch lives and see somebody get inspired and feel like they're closer to the Lord than they were before they watched us, I hope. John Paredes said also on um,
Pale blue
let's
sound.
see if that comment's gonna come up.
Oh,
Blue
John
Mountains.
Paredes. Yes, he's one of my closest, dearest friends. We
So
we play
Hey,
in
John.
different bands together, and he's a musical friend and inspiration of many things. Yeah, the Great
Cool.
Gatsby of Pittsburgh.
Thanks for watching. I was going to correct you on you said that Pittsburgh's a wonderful city,
we're
but
out
go
of time.
Buccaneers.
Well, go ahead. Go
I was just telling them go Buccaneers.
ahead.
Oh, we didn't get into football. That would open a can of worms there, but or any sport there. But
Yep. Right now, go Michigan in the NCAA championship.
oh yeah, Final Four.
They're almost unstoppable, dude. They're just blowing their opponents out in the tournament. Unbelievable.
Yes, I remember the time of the Fab Five.
Yep. These guys might even be better than them, I think.
Better.
Yeah.
Wow.
Defensively, they just beat Arizona, who even Charles Barkley was saying that Arizona was like one of the best teams in the country. And he's just dumbfounded how bad Michigan beat him, 91-74, I think it was. It was over from the beginning. So anyway, thanks for coming on. We don't want to drag it out.
You.
Yep. Read your Bible every day, everybody.
Thank you.
Yep. It was great
All
having you
right.
on.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks for the great comments and participation tonight. And we will see you all next week. And happy Resurrection Sunday. Thank you.